Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
We want to welcome you today. Blessings from Creator and all our ancestors. My name is Jerry Teo, and with the Healing Generations Institute, and just want to thank you all for joining us today, for participating and coming on this journey with us, where we really explore the sense of how we heal generations, but also how we lift up the medicine of our ancestors, of our people, of our culture, in order that we can walk this way in a sacred way, but in a way that our ancestors would be proud. We thank you for joining us today in this dialogue, in this journey, in this exploration, and we're very honored today to have with us a Baba, an elder, a wisdom keeper, a good friend of mine. We've walked many roads together for a lot of years, man. I remember being on the road years ago, man, just talking and sharing with people. And so very, very blessed to have Brother Baba, Dr. Wade Nobles with us today, who, comes with so many years of experience and is one of the most revered psychologists in the world. Studied classical African philosophy, but walks that way, lives that way. Is grounded in the development of authentic Black psychology. He's the founding member of the Association of Black Psychologists, former national president, professor emeritus of African Studies and Black Psychology at San Francisco State University, and has written hundreds of articles and spoken all over the world. And so it's a great honor and great privilege, Baba, for you to be here with us today. I'm excited to have this dialogue with you and to really listen and learn from you. I'm wondering if you could begin by just introducing yourself and how you would like to be shared.
Yeah, and Jerry, I wanted to just say at the beginning that the only thing better than this is for you and I to be in the same room, breathing the same air together. But technology is going to have to satisfy us. I think that it's important that I begin by acknowledging the dwellers of heaven that we consider to be our ancestors, and that they require that I tell you that I am Annie Mae Nobles Cotton and John Nobles' son, their baby son. Annie Mae was born in 1914 and John in 1900. My father's name is Mims Nobles, who was born in the barbarism of American slavery in 1863. He walks with me. His father's name was Wade Nobles, who was born also in the savagery of American slavery, and he was born in 1836. I am his namesake. I am his spirit. I am the oldest son of his daughter, who both were sold in captivity in Edgefield, South Carolina, in this country. So my spirit is the spirit of those men and women who were held in captivity. I also was initiated in the Ifa system in Nigeria, and an Ifa named me Ifakbemi Shangodari. And Ifakbemi means that the spirit blesses me, and Shangodari means that the spirit also protects me. So I walk in the world, at least I am guided by my ancestors to walk in the world with no fear. The spirit is always around me. They surround me. In all my travels and throughout Africa, the shaman, the priest, the Shangomas have always identified this realm that was part of my destiny. So I think I am blessed to realize what I'm supposed to be doing. We all come from, at least the Yoruba tradition says, we come from heaven, having made a pact with the divine to go to the earth and to do good. And you do good in different ways. You have to find your way in order to do good. I think now at 74, 75 years old, I think I know my way, and I'm trying to follow that. And that has been to look and really to deal with the issues of the mind. I'm struggling with us saying that we are psychologists because I think the Western model of psychology has so contaminated that discipline that it is not an accurate perception of what people like you and I do.
Mm.
I'll stay with it for a little while. In South Africa, Baba Credo Mutwa, who just transitioned, he was one of the most powerful priests and healers in South Africa. He was the High Sanusi. He just passed recently, but my wife and I sat with him many times, and he identified me to be a Bejana. Bejana is the Zulu word that means the rhinoceros. And so I have the spirit of the rhinoceros. And as you know, in your tradition, the animal spirits are real. They're not just sort of things that we put on as decoration. But the rhinoceros, El Bejana, is my spirit. And he also pointed out to me that I have to always acknowledge that I walk in this world with my completion. That is my wife. She's not my partner, as people say. The people say, "Oh, it's my partner." She's my completion, and as my completion, we have given birth to 5 children and 12 grandchildren, and it is important that I think I take a moment, if you don't mind, me to name their names, because in the African tradition, the name represents your nature, and so we have to be very careful as we reclaim and rescue our own way, that we be very diligent about how we name our children. I'm on that bridge where I got some names that come out of just being captured in America and thinking that I'm, Western. But also, you see in my naming, in our naming. My wife's name is Winmi Nokwanda. She is the mother of all mothers in the tradition, and she is that. She mothers me, and not in no way, but not, a mother being I'm in charge way. But my children's name are Michael Chukuya, Omar Jamal, Zetha Iwuda, Ayana Yasmin, Halima Bisa, and my grandchildren are Talia, Michael, Christopher, Donovan, Deborah, Masai, Afalaran, Morami, Fulashade, Yasmin, Oni, and Zane. Those spirits have come through us. And the work we do has to cut the weeds and the path to make sure that they will be able to fill their destiny. We say in our prayer that I ask that I be allowed to honor myself, my family, and my people. And my people are all African people. And if we really tell the truth of the world, all people are African people. But because of the social constructions, we get kind of crazy with that. And there's some mutations going on as well. But the purpose of being here is to understand what it means to be a human being. And that's what my work has been doing. So when we talk about the oppression, the domination, the destruction of African people, starting with our captivity and enslavement, it really was about the dehumanization of a people in order to exploit them. And so we, in our community, we talk about this 40 acres and a mule and reparations and all this stuff, but it wasn't about getting our time back, getting our lost labor back. It was about getting our humanity back.
Yes.
That's the voice I bring to the conversation. We are clearly at a time now where the Western world, particularly America, because of coronavirus, is at a breaking point. It's at a judgment point. Is it going to be human or is it going to be savage? And in terms of the relationships of humanity to the world. And I believe that our traditions, our traditional ways, are the key to how we regain our humanity. So we can't just say, how do we make ourselves be better black people in America or better brown people in America, but how do we take our black and brown deep historical, philosophical thought and change the way the world operates? And that's where I see myself sitting right now.
Wow. Well, Baba, you definitely, as you even introduce yourself, point out the interconnectedness of your spirit, the legacy and the history and the magnitude of the medicine and the blessings and the teachings that you carry by way of generations of people. We often, our young people get tricked to believe that it's just them They're
Yeah.
individuals, and that's part of that indoctrination, but we know right now, that we're in this dual pandemic, right? Where
Yes.
the COVID-19 and as you mentioned, the white supremacy 19, and so how is it, what is it that we have to undo or redo in order to heal our whole people,
Yeah.
I mean, what is the journey that we need to go on? What are the things we need to remember or recover in order for us to transform in that way?
See, I really think that it's important that we recognize that we've been misinformed about what we are as beings. You see, we've been taught that we are human beings and that human beings are fundamentally physical material entities.
Hmm.
And then they take certain physical material entities and demean them based upon coloration. So the physical beings that are white are good. The physical beings that are black and brown and red and yellow are all lesser goods.
Hmm.
And my reading is when you get to the black part, it's not even no lesser good. It's just downright bad.
Hmm.
We've had this mental kind of indoctrination about what it means to be. Africa has taught me, sitting with the Sanusis and with the Ngangas and with the shaman, has taught me that what we are spirit. We're not spiritual. And that's another misunderstanding. They say, oh, you colored people are so spiritual. You got all these funny dances. You wear this colorful clothes and you do all this stuff. And oh, can we learn how to do that dance? No, that's not who we are. We are spirit. We are spirit, not spiritual. And as spirit beings, then we have a knowing and knowable spirit. See, the spirit, the energy, the force that makes us be knows. The spirit that makes me be is knowing, and it is knowable. So the quest in life, at least I believe, the quest in life is to know what your spirit knows.
Wow.
And our spirit knew life long before oppression raised its ugly head. Our spirit knew how to be long before this cancer of white supremacy began to spread out around the world. So we have to do a couple of things, it seems to me. We have to first decolonize our mind. Decolonize our mind so we can see ourselves as spirit. And then for we who are spirit beings with an African face, we have to then affirm African. Because the idea of African has been the badge of demeaning, the badge of ugly, the badge of wrong. Everything black is bad. So there's this twin task of decolonizing our mind and then affirming Africa, but as spirit beings, not as physical beings. See, even right now, you're hearing the conversation now about post-corona and how people have to not just acknowledge that there's racism, they have to be anti-racist. But racism is not the issue. Racism is the symptom. White supremacy is the disease. And I would argue that this disease of white supremacy is a mental illness. That people who are impacted or infected with white supremacist ideologies are literally mentally ill. And so our approach to this now struggle, as Corona has in some ways leveled the playing field.
Yep.
Corona says, I don't care who you are, race, status, sex, oriented, anything, you get in my way, I'm going to get you. And Corona has given us an opportunity to re-ask the question.
Yeah.
And the question is, what does it mean to be human? And then given that meaning of human, how do we relate to each other? The Bantu, we are Bantu people. The Bantu say that we are spirit beings housed in a physical container having a human experience. What is real is not, this almost seems like it's sort of Hindu. The physical experience in the physical container and the human experience are sort of illusions. They're not permanent. What is permanent is the spirit. And so we have to start regrounding ourselves in the spirit in order to change the perception of what it means, what my physical container connotes, and change the experience that it doesn't allow me to aspire to what I should be. And that's why I begin to talk about this idea of this dual pandemic. The dual pandemic is COVID-19, but our real pandemic is white supremacy 19, because we started this horrendous toxic experience in 1619.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make the white supremacy was a plague that began in 1619, and we are now recognizing it as white supremacy 19. But both those pandemics, but I think the white supremacy pandemic is really far more dangerous and deadly than the COVID-19. Because it challenges and corrupts the spirit, whereas COVID-19 is really a physical ailment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deadly one, a dangerous one. I don't make that light and disregard it. People should be taking all kinds of cautions, especially to protect themselves and their family and their loved ones. But this spirit damage that is due to white supremacy is far more dangerous because it locks us up. It doesn't allow us to have a vision to see possibility. We're always seeing the options in reaction to white folk. All our perceptions about what we can do or what we can't do is based upon the oppression that we're being assaulted by in terms of white supremacy. But you cannot be a full spirit being if the game you play is always punch and counterpunch. If the game is punch and counterpunch, then you're defined by the game of boxing.
Right. A
good friend of mine, he's now passed, a black psychologist named Bobby Wright. He came up with the concept of menticide. Menticide. And he said that the problem with white supremacy is that it tries to commit menticide. And menticide is killing the mind to be able to have vision and abilities. And he gave the analogy of a bullfight. He says, in the bullfight, the bull is the strongest, biggest, they want to say beast, but it is a being. It is a being. And that bull is strong and powerful. But the matador stands in front of the bull and he waves this red cape and he's dressed in all this finery. So he has status of being wealthy. He waves his cape and the bull charges the cape. And the bull is also surrounded by these other men called picadors. Mm-hmm. The picadors ride the horses and they throw these blades into the bull. So while the bull is trying to get the matador, the picadors are throwing the big, and the bull gets so exhausted and so tired, he stops and he stamps his feet. He stamps his feet. And one last thrust, he goes after the matador, though he's weakened. And the matador stands with all the pride and all the women in the stands shouting how wonderful and virile he is. He takes his sword and he thrusts the sword into the bull's brain. Bobby says, if the bull understood menticide, it would have known that its nature is to jump over the railing, go find him a cow, and have other bull children. His nature is to be with bull, not to fight the matador. But the matador set up the game that his manhood was defeating the matador. And in many ways, that's what happens to us. We think our manhood is to do better with white stuff than white folks do. So the test is you can be anything if you do it by our rules. You can literally be the president of the United States, black man, if you do president by our rules. You can be the corporate head of a General Motors if you do it by our rules. You see, so we have to begin to break out of this menticide and recognize that this, and I don't want to use the game, except I use the game in the sense, I use playing in the way of they talk about it in capoeira, that you play in a way of understanding the rhythms and the movements in order to dance in a way that defeats your opponent. So that's why I want to talk about decolonization and the affirming of African being. And I've thought about this for a while, Jerry, because I think that there's things we can do to challenge this. The decolonization of the African mind requires us to be very clear and premeditated in dismantling the edifice of Western white hegemony. Everything around us is hegemonic. Yeah. Everything around us, even our children taking now this new music. It's amazing to me that our young, gifted, and bright artists, musicians, it's amazing that they will then name themselves after some mafioso gangster. You see the mental side here? Their gift, their genius, or they'll do strange things, but we have to dismantle this Western hegemony. And that means everywhere: art, music, dance, education, healing, medicine. Everything has been westernized. And when you travel the world, as you and I do, you travel to our home countries, they've been contaminated by Western thought as well.
That's right.
And so we have to dismantle that. We have to also deconstruct implicit privilege of whiteness. And now there's this new discussion about white fragility in terms of being fragile and talking about racism. That in the street language is just BS. There ain't no fragility. They're creating another screen to say it's difficult to talk about these things when you are benefiting from them. When you in fact condone the savagery. If you condone the savagery, how can you be fragile about talking about it? So we're going to deconstruct that privileging. And then one of the other ones, and then I want to shift to the affirming piece. The other one is to disrobe the false image of the white aesthetic. And that's hard to do because, we've been, I'm going to say contaminated, but that's being a little harsh, because our pigmentation varies now. Yeah. And some of that is natural for my evolution, but some of that is because of the assault of being raped by the conquistadors and the white slave masters. Yeah. So that kind of notion of the white aesthetic, that beauty in good is always couched in whiteness. We have to disrobe that. And really, if I can make this statement without sounding real crazy, we have to run naked in the world as Black people. We have to run naked in the world. And finally, we have to engage in identifying everywhere that we see dehumanization. Everywhere, because it comes in very soft and subtle ways. A teacher in the classroom who overlooks a Black child raising his hand or a brown child raising a hand and overlooks that child and calls another child, that's an act of dehumanization. Yeah. The going to a restaurant with your loved one and you don't get service properly or immediately, that's dehumanization. See, that's just so disregard. No, that's an act of dehumanization. Yeah. So we have to call things what they are, and that's important for in order to decolonize the mind.
Wow, we could spend hours just deconstructing and talking about what you shared, but I want to come back to something that I think was very profound. I mean, everything you said profound, but what you started with is that spirit, that we are spirits, and we have knowledge, and children, when they come from the ancestors, carry this knowledge, right? And and I remember growing up in Compton. I remember growing up, we'd be playing. We were little kids. And my best friend Tyrone, his grandmother, when she would catch him doing something, she says, "You know better. Yeah, you know better." And in Western education, said, "Well, the child really has not developed enough." No. Grandma said, "You know better. Your spirit knows better, and your spirit knows." And I think that's one of the things also is that in this Western educational system, they look to children of color, especially, and think they don't know anything. Think they don't have knowledge, they don't have wisdom, that they don't have culture, they don't have, and that trickery, if you will, begins a process. Where we don't acknowledge the wisdom that we carry, we don't acknowledge our ancestor wisdom, we don't acknowledge and feel proud of our culture and who we are, and sometimes this process means that we have to quiet that narrative of this society in order that we can feel our ancestors come through us, And so you mentioned a whole number of things of running naked. And really what that is seeing our true sacred self without all of the false narrative that has been put on us. We have to come back to that, if you will, that original state of being, Absolutely. And I'm wondering, what are some of those things that, that you think can help us heal, can help us, because we are wounded because of this generational trauma that has been imposed on us and the toxicity that has been indoctrinated in us. How do we heal? How do, us as African or brown-rooted people, how do we heal? How do we recover from this genocide?
Well, see, and that to me is where the real hard work comes into being. Because everything about knowing, about understanding, about behavior has been contaminated by Western thought. But if we go back and quiet is an important action, being quiet. Maya Angelou, before she died, she said that if you, in the moment of quietude, in those moments of quietude, you can hear the voice of God. And so in this quiet moment, I'm not saying and encouraging people to go off and be like monks somewhere and be quiet. I'm talking about just understand your spirit's solemnness. And in that place, we have to engage. I think we have to begin to come up with creating, inventing, rescuing practice, or more properly, praxis, in terms of certain things. We have to begin to wonder about how do we engage in understanding the invisible. That's a difficult task because our ancestors see us, but we can't see them. They know us, and we have to create rituals so that we will know them. So the importance of engaging in both the visible and invisible reality is one of those things we have to invent praxis to do that. The other one I think is important as how do we heal ourselves is to openly and honestly honor the feminine as primary and paramount. We've messed up. Westernized said this gender thing, and because the Europeans made their masculine assault with their women our problem, we now have to think about gender equity, and we got to do stuff with gender, women being free. No, it's upside down. We have to see the feminine, and this is energy, this is spirit, the feminine as primary and paramount. And how do we create rituals and games and sayings and stories and songs that do that? You see what I'm saying? Give our talent to do that. The third thing we need to do is enhance our understanding of being sacred. How I'm a sacred being, but how do I then pass that on to the next generation so that those kids who decide they're going to go into the music industry because they think they're going to make some money, they're going to be the next whoever. Have them practice writing lyrics and rhythms and sounds that inspire the sacredness in us. You see, so there are things we can do if we know what the outcome is.
Yeah.
And then look at how do we support the goal of cultural maturation and spiritual evolution. That's a task.
Yeah.
How do we take these brown folks and these black folks and say your job is to become culturally mature? What does that mean? And then create, again, games and stories and music and puzzles that allow us to do that. And then it seems to me that that's all about rites of passage and these initiations. We need to take those back. Everyone says that, Baba, you're an elder. But in the tradition, you resist being an elder. You resist being an elder because elder takes on a profound responsibility. And the primary responsibility of an elder is to protect the people from ignorance. But if you ignorant yourself, how are you going to protect the people from ignorance? You're old and ignorant, but you see, so there's some real heavy duty work we have to do to heal a whole people. Real heavy duty work. We have to figure out how do we minimize this personal trauma, minimize it. And then in my own work, I think that this issue of shattered consciousness and fractured identity. We have a shattered consciousness. So consciousness is our understanding of how do I know the knowable and the unknowable. That's what consciousness does. But ours has been shattered. So we will fall behind Freud or some other silly white man and say, there's the unconscious and there's subconscious and there's I'm struggling with my desire to sleep with my mother and kill my father. All those little stuff that they created in their psychology, we got to throw in the trash can and really begin to talk about a science of the spirit. A science of the spirit. And in my work, I've been looking at that and talking about that as Saku Jer. Saku, ancient Kemetic Egyptian word that means illumination. Saku, illumination. And Jer, DJR, is an ancient Kemetic word that means the all. So as a healer, as a used to be known as psychologist, my job is to be the one who illuminates the all. I need to know how does my behavior contaminate a blade of grass from growing.
Wow.
I need to know how my relationship with my wife at the moment of conception may put my son or my daughter on a path of destruction. At the moment of conception. See, that's a more deeper kind of conversation and task that we have to engage in. So we have to look at these things and begin to deal with adopting sayings, practices, stories that do that. And again, in the Bantu Congo, we have a saying that says, Buka mukate yabuka kumbazi. Buka mukate yabuka kumbazi. What that saying means, it's like a chant. What it means is that spirit, you heal the inside, the rest of us will heal the outside. I'm going to beat their ass if they mess with me on the outside, but I'm going to also have my spirit make sure that I'm fortified with the energy to do that. That's what, I don't know if you saw my recent book on this Haitian Revolution, but the Haitian Revolution was really a spirit calling in the alligator swamp. Our ancestors were invoking the lowers, invoking those spirits, and then arming themselves to engage in, I'll deal with the outside. They were really doing buka mukati, ya buka kumbazi. We didn't know it then because we Western education. We didn't know that. But let me start with this, Jerry. Think about this. If our children were taught that when you go to school, we're still going to go to school and be assaulted by non-black, non-brown teachers. If we go to school and the child is assaulted, if that black or brown child stood up and teacher said, "Buka mukati ya buka kumbazi," I'm raising my hand. Teacher, I know the answer. I know the answer. Teacher don't recognize him. Child, stand up and say, "Buka mukati ya buka kumbazi." What kind of energy field would that create? That's how you heal a whole people. Now, that's one of them. I don't be prophetic. I know the answer here because I don't. But I have some hints here, and I quiet myself so the ancestors speak to me in my dreams and in the quiet time. But that's what we got to do. We got to come together, you and I and folk, and sit together and say, what kinds of things do we instill, we plant in that spirit of the next generation, so they don't see that their goal, their success is that we should be marching and protesting, but their goal is that I marched, I produced. Everybody knows about I marched with Martin. It couldn't be all the people could not have marched with Martin. Their credit is that they've marched and they protest. That's necessary, but that's not sufficient.
Right.
What is sufficient is to be a spirit being walking in the world, affirming one's beingness as African, as brown people, as white people. And I'm not sure what other people, the aliens, I call them aliens, I'm not sure what they can do, but that's their scientists and healers to work on that. They should be working on healing white supremacy, but we should simply recognize that it exists.
Yep.
And if I see a disease, if I see that there's a contaminated water, my job is not to drink it. But the one who contaminated water is the one who has to purify the water.
Right. Wow. There's two things that stand out. If we recognize the power of the vibration of those chants, and even if a young boy is only lived 5 years on this earth, but has been given the knowledge and the rhythm and the chant and the energy to be able to chant those sayings that say, I am valuable, that says I am sacred, and I am saying it on behalf of my ancestors. When you open up that portal that way and say that chant, your ancestors' spirits come through. So there's so much more energy than 5 years. There's thousands of years of energy, and so I think that what you're saying is very profound. How is it that we prepare our children, our young people, ourselves? The other thing, on the other side of that, the duality of that you mentioned about the feminine, right? And even about the quiet, about how is it that we can spend time in quiet in order that we could hear the ancestors. And, it brings me back to seeing my grandmother praying in the morning. Every morning she would be quiet before she started her day to be able to connect and hear, just the same way that you were saying right now, so that you could open up that portal so that the ancestors could tell you what you need to do, right? And I think we need to spend more time like that so that we could be guided, because, this is definitely a time of transformation and of opportunity where we can shift things. But if we don't do it in our way, if we succumb to doing it in their way, then as in my neighborhood say, you fell for the okie doke.
I think we are right now, because we have the opportunity to stand up as spirit beings and create a new reality, or we can default back to doing the same old stuff and believe we got some gains because they took Aunt Jemima off the pancake box, or they took Uncle Ben's off the rice box. We think those are gains. Those aren't gains. The gain is that we set a foot, as Frantz Fanon said, we set a foot, a new man. We set a foot, a new man. This is our time to do that.
Yeah. And I think, the journey has to begin again now. And I'm wondering, you're a Baba, you're an elder, you're a grandfather, you got all those grandkids, I was wondering if you could share with us what you want to tell this next generation, because we've been out on the long road and done some things that, we thought were good, and some things probably had more gain than others. But, when you get to this stage, there's some things that you've learned, and that's why I feel so privileged to sit with you right now, and I hope the audience is recognizing the privilege of listening to you. I've had the privilege of sitting with you, of being with you, working with you, which is profound. It's touched my life. So I want to thank you and your ancestors for the impact you've made on me. And because you've made that impact on me, I have been able to do my work in a different way, help my people and all people, so that interconnection of us as Black and brown people, just reverberates. But what I would like to ask you is what kind of counsel, what kind of advice would you give this next generation in terms of going forward?
I think it's hard to say in advice. I think it's an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing intergenerational conversation. But the one thing I would do is, I do this with my grandchildren now, say that you're not alone. That you're not alone, that our ancestors are always with us. Not only are they with us, you are the ancestors. You are the ancestors, and your job is to fulfill in your time what the ancestors left undone in their time. We have to figure out how to do that I don't know what the phrase to give it to, but it seems to me if we can instill in our children that they are the cauldron of unlimited possibility. And so think of what you've come to the earth to do. And the divine, however you call the divine, did not create you to be less. Did not create you to be a deficit in the world. What is going to be your contribution? Have them meditate. What is going to be your contribution? How do you make it better? How do you make it more better? That's our job. And you have no limitations, and you are the ancestors returned. You have unlimited possibility. Don't go for the okie doke. You can't do that. Can't even be in your vocabulary.
Right. So with that in mind, and you mentioned it's an ongoing dialogue. What do we need to do as those elders that are still, on this road, still on this path? We recognize that interconnection is there. What is the responsibility of us as we move forward on this journey?
At the smallest level, we should tell our story. We should tell our story. We should tell the stories of what happened to us and our parents and our grandparents, and how we still are moving forward with some dignity. Tell the story. Tell the stories of oppression and denigration, not to bemoan them, but to show the victory of that. For example, we were told the story over and over again about how our ancestors were stealing away from slavery, running through the woods, and the slave catchers were running after them with these hound dogs, and there was fear, and no one get caught, and no one get be put back in slavery. And one story that told that I always remember is that this one slave stopped, turned around, looked the hound dog in the eyes, and the hound dog bowed down. Now, what if you took that story and said, look at all our tragedy, but look at the victory that's in it as well. The smallest levels is talk about our oppression, talk about how we overcame that, not no we shall overcome chant, but how we overcome that victoriously. And then the second thing is for us as elders, is to rescue our ancient thought. That's our job. We're closest to the ancestors. Rescue those traditions, clean them up, understand, in some ways even sanitize them, because they've been contaminated, but being filtered through European anthropologists and archaeologists went trying to capture our story. So we have to rescue our ancient wisdom traditions, clean it up, and then give that to the next generation as their responsibility to carry. We talk about carrying the sacred gourd. Well, the sacred gourd is the blending of the invisible realm and the visible realm. So that sacred gourd, we have to pass on to the next generation. Within that sacred gourd is the wisdom, truths, and the deep thought that we as elders have rescued from our own tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Not look to the white your interpretation. We literally take the gloves off.
Yep.
We ain't gonna get along with you, so I don't want you to like me. That is not my goal. I didn't come from heaven for you all to like me. I come from heaven to liberate the mind of African people, and I'm real clear about that. So I'm taking the gloves off, and I'm going to find those truths, put them in the sacred gourd, and pass it to the next generation. That's our job as elders.
Wow.
I think.
Before we finish, I'd like, because, obviously we could go on, and you have so much to share and so much to teach. If people are interested, you mentioned your book, you mentioned, some of your writings. Where can people look to see, other writings, books, seminars that you have given to them? Because I know people are going to want that. So.
Yeah, I gave a couple of things. I gave your son a couple of links. One is to the Association of Black Psychologists. That link, and there's a whole bunch of folks that are sort of light thinkers. There's also some people in the association that are still confused. So there's truth in lending here.
Yeah.
You got to pick your mango carefully. Mm-hmm. And there's a new group that I'm serving as their elder advisor called Black Therapy Collective. I gave that link to your son as well.
Okay.
People go on that. But I have a link that's drwadenobles.com. And all my writings there, I've made them so that PDFs, people can get them free and look at them. And I've just reactivated something called the Saku Jer is the illumination of the all. I reactivated a process that I've been working with next generation, in quote, Black psychologists, that's called the Saku Collectives. And I'm working personally with small groups of young people who want to, you and I can say young, I mean the 50-year-olds.
Right.
But young people who want to give the time to go deep into the thinking and the writing. These Saku Collectives, I got a group of young people in South Florida who are all Haitian. And so they're working through the voodoo and that with me. Mm-hmm. And I had another group in Brazil who are starting to translate my work into Portuguese. And so there's these ways in which we can create these collectives of people that we as elders kind of work through and give them some challenging to do the deep digging. Hey, this ain't Saturday Night Special. This ain't light work. This is deep digging.
Right.
And that's those spheres. But particularly, I think the initial thing is to check out abside.org on the web, and there's a lot of stuff there. And the Black therapists are all African-centered therapists, so people who may have some issues they want to work through, that'll be a good place to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, Baba, I just, I really just want to thank you, personally, but thank you on behalf of so many people that you have touched, and your work and your words and your spirit have made the way for people to begin thinking and exploring and living truth again, according to the ancestors. And I'm sure the ancestors, feel very happy that you are speaking these truths on behalf of my ancestors. I want to thank you.
I
want to thank you. But you mentioned stuff. I think let's commit to have these conversations and gather and figure out what we need to do as the elders to go to that next step, to that next level, so that we can co-create this transformation that is needed in this world today.
I think that's what we do. And that's what Arno and you over there, we try to create the Brotherhood of Elders and the Compadres Network to come together.
That's right.
But we've been so assaulted by the political assault that most of our energy has been just trying to defend our communities.
Right.
Some folks have two teams. We have a defense and an offense. The offense needs to be those elders who come and do the deep thinking like I'm talking about, and then support each other.
Right.
Because again, if we elect 60 black and brown mayors across this country during the next election, if they do mayoral work as white folk in brown and black faces, we have not achieved anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we do the real deep work.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work to do, and I invite you to visit Baba's website and to continue listening and share some comments. If you have any comments, any reflections, but also Baba has challenged us all. Has challenged us all to connect with our spirits, to connect with our ancestors, to begin to lift up truth about who we are as a sacred people, and to take on responsibility of sharing that message with that next generation, to make sure they understand that they are sacred and they come from wisdom and they come from this healing medicine. This is our charge right now. As we move through all these pandemics, we must come out in a different way. And so we want to thank you and thank the ancestors and thank the Creator and thank all of you for the work that you do. And may you have a blessed day. Thank you all very much and many blessings.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.